I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel Sage. This is my buddy Patrick McCray. This is my buddy Alec Gallant. We're here to talk 1995, 9 episodes of pure terror and doom. Uh, and no, let's see, there's no director named John Carpenter directing this, but it feels like that at times. Doom is imminent and doom is here for Dark Shadows. They tear apart the entire, the drawing room of Collinwood. They make everybody look old. It's 1995. It is Dark Shadows in the future. And no, they did not have a DeLorean. And no, they did not need one here either.
You want to need a DeLorean, Joel?
No. What did you guys think of 1995 from a look standpoint, first of all?
Basically, what you were talking about, the set is great. The first thing that we come into is sort of a disorientation, which is, I think, important to this story bridge. And we call this a time period, but it's actually a story bridge. It's a bridge. It's a very good one. And it does stand on its own. But it's a story bridge between parallel and regular time and this great change and this great threat that's about to transpire. The lighting it had already sort of started to take a darker turn, I think. And I think part of that has to do with, I think at this point, the videotape quality was improving and the camera was improving. And so you were getting a little bit more of a sharper quality to some of the scene work and also to the color itself.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Was that to the show's benefit?
I think when I was a kid, I really got into it. Anything that was darker and more shadows, I was into very much so. But as an adult, I look at it and I although I still enjoy it very much, and I think that the storytelling is working and the writing is working for the most part, especially when you consider what they're do it this way, do it now, and get it done. That's a tall order, and they did a great job with that. But when I look back at the early color and the brighter saturation of that earlier color, even though it's a little fuzzier and it's not quite as in focus, and in 1897, there's that aspect to it. Even in the darker things, Handelman's lighting is still like it pops at you a little bit more. So I would say that's my preferred thing. But the saturation and the sharpness of this, and also the music bed is a little bit different. They started to add a few other cues into it that they're going to start using more and more as they go into 1970 and 1840. So it's a change, and it has its positives, and for me it also has its aesthetic drawbacks sometimes. But I would say more positive than negative.
Which feels like a maturing of the show. The sharp, seeing the pockmarks on David Selby's skin, no, seriously.
Absolutely.
That's a story element. Yeah. Because it shows the sweat so much more. It shows the grime and the time and the stress, and it's so much less glamorous. All of that, to me, is just pure semiotics. It's just saying this show is now really playing for keeps. This is not as much of a fantasy world. That this is talk about 1995 and actions have consequences.
Right.
This is all like camera work and camera quality that welcome to consequences.
It's as if the writers said to the actors, or the director said to the actors, the stakes are going up. Basically, everything is going to be high stakes. Every breath you take could be your last. For almost every character, except there are a few unawares characters, but they're taken unawares and end up not ending well. But it is very high stakes.
going with that, one of the things about the stakes that I think really stands out about this is that we have the beginning of less and less community. That, you sort of see some areas outside. Yes, there's that sheriff. But other than that, suddenly there is no blue whale.
Right.
There is Roger's office, and it will stay that way through the rest of the series, except for in 1840 going to Lamar Trask's, mortuary and stuff like that. But that also gives it a real sense of mature inescapability. Consequences are things you can't escape. I can't run off to the blue whale. I can't go see Maggie and have a laugh and a pie.
And proximity and isolation are really good tools for horror and terror both. It's like you say, I can't leave this room. I can't leave this house. I can't escape this situation. I've got to deal with it one way or the other, or it's going to deal with me.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, I think, there's an investment that an audience can make with that. And I think the audience is definitely reinvesting itself by this point in time. Leviathan period, people were, they were kind of pissed off. I mean, at least some people were. And they were obviously the whole thing with the emergency episode and everything with Audrey the Leviathan vampire girl was an effort to sort of change the character moving forward through the character of Barnabas. But if
you could go back in time and play God, how do you think things would go in terms of fan reception if the Leviathan story and 1897 were flip-flopped?
I think the Leviathan story would have been a lot shorter.
Would it have gone over better? We're coming out of Adam, and we're coming out of all of that. And we're not coming off of 1897. We're headed towards.
So we're coming off of Barnabas as a human being, directly into Barnabas as sort of a human being.
Barnabas is still, he's still a human.
But I mean, being the whole thing, it's a tough call. It might go over better because we're staying in time. For a while, it might make people hold their breath a little bit better.
You don't have the disappointment of going from something as fun as 1897.
Yeah, with the Violet Wells influence and all of that sort of thing going on.
Just to this, I think that's
less to compare it to. There's less to compare it
to. That's my point. Yeah, is that I think it was a tremendous letdown to go from the joy of Count Petofi to crazy Paul Stoddard and
Barnabas Collins
and Barnabas is a bad guy all of a sudden.
Totally a bad guy. Barnabas has always had a duality, but there's no doubt at this point he's like completely under the control of these bad people. So
visually, think of how young he looks in parts of 1897, where he's dealing with Laura and so on and so forth, to the Grecian formula.
Yeah, well,
anti-Grecian formula treatment. That they give him when he shows up. And I guess they wanted to make Jeb look even better.
Yes, probably. So they gave him the gray when he also, I think they were also saying, okay, he's a really hardcore vampire now. This is a different curse he's under because it was a different curse.
Oh, that's a good point.
So he was under a curse now where, okay, we're going to torture you with bloodlust times 5 because he's going through I have to. He's really hand-wringing over it, fang-wringing, if you will. But that whole thing, I think, kind of underscored that. It's a totally different animal, this curse. It's a Leviathan curse now. It's not just...
That's a wonderful point. I never thought of that it's a Leviathan version of vampirism.
Yeah. It's different. And I think that may have been part of the visual on that, so... Cool.
I think too, with the Leviathan arc, that you have these creatures that are sea creatures too, and you have to show that too. I think them not exactly showing what the Leviathan are somewhat hurts DS to a degree. and them not pulling that trigger. Because, okay, if you can they show you hell. They literally take you down they show you hell. They show you Satan to a degree. Or at least they show you what it looks like. They show you but them not pulling the trigger of showing what the Leviathan fully are, I think hurts DS to a degree. And then they pulled back once, them not showing fully Satan, but then pulling back again. It's like, no, you got to show me what this is.
That leaves them room to grow. And it's two different philosophies. So, Jewel, are you a shower or a grower? Just kidding. No, your point's quite right.
Yes, I think there's an argument to be made on both sides. Obviously, there's a practical argument to be made for why they didn't show it. Obviously, the budget wouldn't allow for something like that, and it might not come up to expectations given what their technical limitations were, even in 19.
And how do you satisfy everyone? Because everyone's going to have their own conception of what this horrible thing looks like.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about, it's Lovecraftian, it's this, it's that, but that aspect of the imagination, you can definitely defend the imagination as part of that.
The reason, Julia, I think, sees Jeb in his true form and does not go crazy. And no one really asks her about this. And these are moments I would love to think that the writers originally thought of, but just didn't because the world was too square. But and you couldn't have punchlines or irony to the extent that you can now in these things. But I really think if someone had said, Julia, why didn't you go crazy? And she just would have said, hello, medical school. Listen, after some of the things that I saw, I'm a psychiatrist. That means I'm a real doctor. I can cut into people. After the things I've seen, I served in the war. I assume she served in Korea.
She very easily could have.
Yeah.
Could have really served in World War II.
Big Catholic family, tough chick.
Yep.
Big German Catholic family. Yeah, she's seen it all. Other than being a mom, she has seen it all.
I think we know that she is not phased when she shows up in Barnabas's bed, or she shows up. She allows herself to be basically nearly assaulted by Barnabas in her own bedroom in order to talk him out of doing that.
Yeah.
She's not fazed by that. So
no, not at all.
I think too, with the whole when they go to 1995, when they go to the future, and they do this, I love the fact that they do this amazing lighting, and they do the whole green effect of. I love how they light the faces and they make them look older. That was really cool. That was 1995 felt ballsy. Like it was. You and I have talked about this before too, Patrick. The Leviathan arc was their biggest, boldest concept. And
it was a big one.
But I do think too, once you make that decision to, I'm not trying to be picky with them or nitpick them at all. But I think once they make this, do we really, I sort of wondered if they had in mind of what are we going to show the audience? You know what I mean? What can we show? You know what I mean? Because again, I hate to use the word, it's a different time, but it is. The 60s is far different than today.
It's also a different time on the show, literally, 1995. And you're right about the fact that everything is darker. It's very much, the atmosphere is, and it's supposed to be, especially when they're in Collinwood, it's oppressive. It's supposed to be oppressive because
electricity.
Yeah, the presence of that spirit that is the ghost of Quentin Collins times 5, 10, whatever. You know, he's supposed to be that much more intense. And so,
sorry if I cut you off.
No worries.
But I do love the fact that this is the official beginning of the Judah Zachariel. You know, that is cool as shit. You know, no matter what.
Totally.
Was episode 1.
Yeah, well, that's another theory, but yes, I mean, you
practically
could say that the entire, you know, well, actually, you know, it's alluded to. The entire Collins curse starts in the 1600s with Judah Zachary, you know, uttering his famous threat in the courtroom. So you can definitely make a strong argument for that.
And he was in August Osage County.
You talk. Yeah.
I do like the fact that we don't get monologue literally from James Storm. James Storm does get to do a voiceover in the arc, which is cool as shit. Like that.
We don't even know it's him at that point.
No, we don't.
First time. So we don't realize that that's Gerard's ghost that's talking.
Yeah. So. But cool as hell.
That's a semiotic thing. Is it really the character?
Yeah.
It is when they say, "My name is Victoria Winters."
Sure.
But how many times does James Storm say that?
Right. Yeah. No, and nobody else really does. So
no one identifies themselves.
Right.
And so I always, you know, that to me always reads as this is a company member speaking as a company member rather than a character speaking as a character.
Yeah, because by that time they had actually formed a company of actors. It was not just a singularity of actors playing only one role. It was a company. It was like for years I was in resident companies, and you got to play all those different wonderful roles and different wonderful plays.
And that experience, I really do.
Yeah, I had a really. I worked in a regional theater up in New England for a while, and did summer stock for a ton of years. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Anything by Lawrence Roman?
No, we did.
You're a lucky man.
We did a lot of cash cow kind of stuff.
He was under the Yum Yum tree.
Yeah.
My introduction to that kind of stuff was a late Lawrence Roman. It wasn't even under the Yum Yum tree.
Yum Yum was like of its time, but it was very popular of its time too.
Oh God, yes. And,
yeah.
You know, Gig Young was in that forever.
Yeah. No, we would do things like we would do the Akeborn plays. We would do.
Oh, those are great.
Yeah, occasionally we would do a Shaw. Like we did Misalliance once, summer stock, if you can believe that. We did Uncut. That went over.
Heartbreak House.
Went over like a Led Zeppelin in terms of ticket sales, but it was fun to do.
How about that?
Heartbreak House? No, I don't think so.
That's a show. Best part, Cat Burglar. Smallest part, best part. It's the epitome.
Speaking of cat burglars, I did once assistant direct a number of farces, and I directed a farce. And some of them had like characters similar to cat burglars. It was kind of interesting. But no, we did a lot of comedies, and we did a lot of comedies, a little bit of Shakespeare in the regional theater. Agatha Christie's were really popular at the end of the season in the summer stock theater.
I did a production of Sleuth that was so low budget it had to be a one-man show. I won't tell you how we pulled it off, but it wasn't easy.
As long as you weren't talking to the walls, you're all set. Okay. It's like, oh yes, St. John Lord Merridew. There he is. The portrait. Yes. Sorry, we got off.
There was a whole nude production of Oklahoma that we did. That was also a one-man show, but the judge was leaning.
They must have been Hal.
the cowman and the farmer must be friends in a lot of ways. Jewel continued.
Oh shit! No, but I love the fact that James Storm is a treat as hell in all this. Like, it's so cool. And I want to ask you this: what would because we don't see him. What would an aged Willie Loomis look like?
Like he should be on Cagney and Lacey.
Look like this.
We know what an aged Willie Loomis looks like. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
I love the fact that I love how they look at. We get from James Storm. I love how they look at it, right? It's so cool. But my favorite thing of all this, of 1995, they don't, how do I put this? I'm trying to word this right. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let me interject about James Storm. I think that they did the same thing that they did with Quentin in terms of the economy of his appearances and so on. But the writers saw the opportunity in the reactions of the people that were affected by his presence by that, to really intensify that as a sort of an actor's exercise and a storytelling exercise.
Now, in terms of performances, did something really bad go on between him and Julia? Because she acts.
Oh yes, you know that you can commit adultery or cheat on somebody emotionally.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying more than an emotional affair.
You're talking about miasmic intercourse.
Of course.
Okay. Okay, maybe. I mean, she certainly. She
didn't have one of these on.
No. She certainly responded to his presence as though she had miasmic intercourse.
Acts as if it was kind of a occasional rape.
A guilt or
really regrets
or hypnotic, mesmeric. Fun
enhancement. And I'm not saying this to make the haha either. I'm really wondering if that's the subtext that Grayson Hall is playing. Because it really feels like it feels like something more than just talking to him or just planning Barnabas's death.
I would imagine it's kind of a form of rape to have spirit enter your body and take you over.
Yes.
And I think that certainly would be something that she could play that way. Absolutely, it's a violation.
I think
you can't stop herself from following through on this violation.
It just seems like there's something really seedy and extra dark going on with all of this.
She plays like she feels dirty.
Yeah.
There are several instances where she plays that, for sure.
I'll say this. You're welcome, Ghostbusters. Like, seriously.
What is Dan Aykroyd doing in that Napoleonic uniform when he had sex with the ghost in Ghost? Did you notice that?
Yeah.
When it cuts, no, go back and look. Yeah. When the ghost is hovering above him and he's in a Napoleonic military uniform. That's the weird part, not the ghost. That happens.
Yes.
But go back and look.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder who made him do that.
Probably the writer, D. Aykroyd.
Yeah, it might have been Dan. It might have been what's his name?
Harold.
Yeah.
The poor late Harold Ramis, the real smart one.
I'm thinking Ramis.
That guy's a genius. I really miss him.
Absolutely a genius. And I fell for the emotional hook, line, and sinker in the last Ghostbusters movie too. I mean, it was somehow satisfying, not dirty like Grayson Hall and Jim Storm and playing.
I'm wondering if the next film will have more of that, since it looks like there's more of them in it.
Yeah, that would be interesting to find out, because they are definitely making another one. So,
well, no, the trailer is out.
Yes,
and they're in it. The second trailer, they're in it a lot.
Oh, I have not seen that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, because I loved that. I loved that movie. I thought it was great. I thought it had sufficient amount of nostalgia in it, and I thought it had sufficient. I loved the girl power aspect of it. It was really fun to have that little girl who's kind of a little genius herself, sort of take everything in stride and do what needed to be done. So that was kind of fun. So as somebody that teaches young people, that always does my heart good to see that sort of thing. So.
What did you guys think of? Because there's a scene of James Storm does something really cool. He mouths the word Gerard. Like he mouths it to Julia. I love that fact. I think that is so cool. Like he mouths to Julia.
Yeah, it's the symbolic of their familiarity and plays into what we were just talking about. That there is a familiarity there that goes beyond just a sort of a face-to-face encounter.
Yeah. That is so cool. Like
the thing that also I liked about the storyline is that everything reflects that uncomfortable feeling, that disorientation when they open the door and realize that from that point on, when they realize that Collinwood is in ruins, from that point, and they smell it and everything else, they make mention of all of that decay and everything else. From that point on, everything, not just the encounters with Gerard, which intensifies it, but everything is about, oh, what are we doing? What the hell's happening? We have to find out, and everybody is, of course, being human stumbling blocks in their way. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to do this. It's talk about feeling dirty. Everybody in town seems to be feeling dirty about the whole thing that happened in 1970.
And normally that's a thing I'm all for, but we feel dirty now. It's like living in Pottersville. But it must be especially poignant for Barnabas. This is one of those things the series also couldn't take the time to really go into, and it just shows, it evidences, how fast things were moving. But think about this. Barnabas saw this house constructed. He probably had a hand in its design, and this was a vital thing for him.
Sure.
And to think that you're coming from all of that kind of set of aspirations to seeing its permanent ruin
and decay. Yeah.
What a shock, what an extra shock that must have been for him, that all of his, because everything he's done since, he got used to the fact that, he wasn't going to get Maggie, has been about not only helping himself, but making sure that the Collins family continues and are safe.
Yeah.
And that it all came to this. And did it come to this because he was gone? Or did it come to this because he was there at one point? And did he accidentally set something in motion?
Right. The conundrum of the time travel that was, it was probably most fully explored in 1897 when Angelique kept talking to Barnabas about screwing up the timeline. So that's the conundrum.
And
it's an unanswered question. It's a totally unanswered question. You can't.
Considering where he came from and the era he came from, I know this is a stretch because obviously the writers had not caught this on TV yet, but after January 6th and seeing what our capital was turned into,
right,
and that moment, I can't look at the 1995 sequence the same way. And I just imagine someone from Barnabas's era seeing that and feeling exactly the same. Oh my God, is this where it's all come to?
Right.
It's become retroactively a very political sequence.
It has. And not only that, but looking at it through the eyes of somebody from a different era and coming into it like this, being completely, overwhelmed or completely in focus with that incident because it's so right there. It also becomes your whole world. That shock, that surprise, that decay, that destruction, it becomes everything. So it's all about what's happening, fight or flight, survival, grief, all these different things are happening because this shit is happening in front of you. Basically, this crap is happening.
Yeah.
It's also potentially something that is going to destroy you if you're close enough to it. And with Barnabas, of course, by this time, the writers and Dan Curtis and everybody involved with it have narrowed the world to, as you said, as we talked about before, there's more of an isolation that's happens through Leviathan, and a couple of incidents in the Blue Whale, but that's about it. Everything else is Old House and Collinwood, and it's on the estate, you know, pretty much. So you've got this bubble that's just gotten smaller, and so anything that happens in it, any kind of incident or a catalyst that happens into it, it's going to be magnified by the fact that this is the whole world we're talking about. Yeah, the shock is definitely, you know, his shock, her shock, everybody's shock, but his through time, because he sustained the house from the time it was nothing but timbers. So, and now it's nothing but timbers again.
I love the fact too, Julia's betrayal of Barnabas, right? Of she feels so what's the word? She betrays Barnabas to how she what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God. She keeps going to the fact of, oh my God, you know, to the point of no, right? She's to the point of, oh God, what's the word? Oh my God.
Is it guilt?
Sorry. I love the fact of where she goes, where it's Julia, right? Where no, you made me do it. Then it's Daphne, right? I love Daphne, right? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Take your time.
We're good, man. I love Daphne too.
I love New York in June. How about you? I love a Gershwin tune. How about you?
Oh, absolutely.
I love a fireside when a storm is due.
My other job is working in a musical theater. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Small musical theater. So we do off-Broadway stuff mostly. You know, three to six handers, occasional 8-hander kind of stuff.
Have you done musical of musicals?
Say again?
Musical of musicals.
Yes.
It's a 4-person show. Oh, it's dynamite. It's very funny.
Yes, it is. It's hilarious. Yes, we did it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we refashioned our found space so that we could do the balcony scene in Musical of Musicals. So that was fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I didn't do that as an actor. I was an actor for 25 years, but I was also a technician and an actor for a lot of years. And now I'm a technician. I'm the tech director, actually, at the little theater that I work at.
There's a place in heaven.
There's
a place in heaven for you. Thank you.
I stay away from. I know what you go through. I stay away from educational tech direction. It is the most challenging, the most energetically challenging thing you can do in the theater.
Sisyphean.
Yes, it is. It is. It's absolutely, and I have absolute mad respect for anybody that's in, secondary or even college doing that kind of stuff. It's crazy. Right now, I'm just teaching, so I'm fine with that.
What did you guys think of Julia's betrayal of Barnabas? Here again,
it puts the foot on the other glove. You know, that's not the way it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be Barnabas betraying Julia for some dame or something like that. Again, yeah, there we go. Again and again. And it almost primes it when Barnabas has one of his just shittiest lines ever, but truest, where he's lost Roxanne and they're standing in the room and he says, but you wouldn't know anything about that. And Grayson Hall, God, but what an actor. Jesus Christ, she's good. Just gives this.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, that's what you think. And it may just be my imagination, but it almost cuts back to Fred where he's sort of like, I shouldn't have said that. And it's like it sets it up for. Yeah, Barnabas. Well, let's see how it feels for you. See how it feels for you.
But that's one of the dualities of Barnabas. He can be really, like a stand-up guy, and then he can be completely out of the world and into no self-awareness whatsoever. Just, I'm going to talk about me and blah blah blah. Oh, this person that might get hurt by what I'm saying is standing right next to me. Yeah. It doesn't, sometimes it just doesn't happen for him. I don't know. Sometimes I attribute that to the fact that he grew up an aristocrat, because he did. He grew up privilege, and he grew up in an era where women were less than. There were a lot of things that he had as a stumbling block, and I try to at least partially forgive him through some of those circumstances. But sometimes he's a real piece of work when it comes to that sort of thing. But at the same tone, within a very short time, he's saying, "I'm not leaving, never without you, Julia." So there's again, this guy has duality, triality, quadrality. He's got all this stuff going.
A lot of alities.
A lot of alities, and in spite of Frid's difficulty with lines at times, he really crafts depth in the character that way. I think even through some of the grandiosity early on in terms of what was written for him, and the sometimes lack of grandiosity that was written for him a little bit later on.
I never look at it as Frid's difficulty with lines. I really do. I look at it as Barnabas not quite knowing what to say, or having a natural malapropism, like just do whatever you want, but keep it down.
Normal human stuff, yeah.
Yeah, to me, it makes the show more realistic, and it makes him more human. And I love those moments, not to laugh at him, but to think, this is just, I have this moment every day at some point.
It's true. And that's interesting in terms of the texture of human experience, and even when he was a vampire, it's human experience because he never played the vampire.
Question: Louis Edmonds, naughty guy. I think the two most famous Louis Edmonds stories: first, the Incestors, and second, having to finish an episode from the waist up because of his pants. I think those were intentional. I think he was seeing what he could get away with.
I don't know. He
told everyone, "Oh, it was an accident."
Yeah.
Especially Incestors. He covers it too well.
He does. He totally covers it. He covers it like it's like, oh shit.
Really. I mean, this is the man who just happened to dance out of his clothes on the dance floor.
Yes, and yes. I think that Louis, as a person and as an actor, could take any screw up and turn it into something valiant and magnificent.
And you might use that to your advantage one day.
Yes, absolutely.
I can deal with it either way. I would love to think it were real, and I would love to think that he just got a little bit of the devil in him, and so he tell me, shooting this from the waist up. Oh, really? Well, I'm off to my dressing. Oh, what do you mean I still have to appear? Oh, well, here I am.
Do your best.
Stop. It was an accident, man. I swear. What, are you going to fire me? Oh.
Incestors.
They turned into Jonathan Harris.
Yeah, the Incestors thing became a huge joke when I was doing summer stock back in the 90s, because I got a bunch of other people watching the show. We would, on our Mondays off, I say, hey, come on over. I got some the old VHS tapes there, and we would watch some of those. And the Incestors one came up, and they couldn't stop talking about it for the rest of the summer.
It's great.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
You look like a screensaver right now. You're just kind of like.
No, I love it. No, I love it. I love the fact that Louis Edmonds was so good, right? And so everybody was. I mean, when everybody talks about how Dark says, oh, there were so many good films. Who gives a shit? It was such a good show.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole thing. It was in the flow of this very highly theatrical, simulated live and not so simulated live effort.
Right.
You would not believe, Jewel, how many times I was on stage and words like incestors came out of my mouth when I was doing live theater. It would happen, but you got, and you're back into the line again. It's not like you ignore the fact it happened, because people don't ignore the fact that happens. They go, oh, whatever. I do that in one of my speech classes. Sometimes I'll get ahead of myself and I'll and I go, let me try that again.
Yeah.
It's the whole message of the movie, The Right Stuff.
Yeah.
It's not about screwing up. Everybody screws up. How do you recover?
Right.
Yeah. Dark Shadow is such a great show. I mean, Mark Gilman said about this too. Everybody gives up. Everybody. Like,
yep.
I don't like.
It's a philosophy in my class. Learning happens when you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And learning always happens when you make mistakes, because people make mistakes when they're learning. So.
Yeah. Every day. Every day. Yeah. I love the fact too that I love how Julia Hoffman says about, or no, Fred says about oh my God, he says about oh, you hurt your family so much. There's a line literally too in Dark Shadows of, you have Jonathan Frid's what did he say? Oh shit. Jonathan Frid Barnabas says, I hurt my family so much in 1995. But I love him so much. Not exactly that line, but he says it about to the point of where oh God, it's literally in 1995 where
is this in his frustration not being able to save David and some of the other?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Carolyn, when that happens, sort of thing. Yeah, he takes it on. There's no doubt he takes it on. But at the same time, then I think it makes it more dramatic than the idea comes. The light bulb goes off. Can we go back and stop it from happening?
Yeah. Oh.
Their being there is an accident in the first place, but it turns out to be the kind of an accident that is going to spur them to attempt to fight this problem, this Holocaust.
And they do. It just takes them longer than they think.
Right.
It will. It covers a couple of different
time bands,
but they do.
Yes, they do. Absolutely. A few false starts for dramatic purpose, and
to me, one of the greatest dramatic starts, which is, really being unable to change the timeline and having witness to every grueling moment of being unable to change the timeline in the fashion they think they're going to be able to, which is by averting the events on the list.
Right. When they go back to 1970, it turns out that they're still in many ways that helpless onlooker. Only now they're having it happen in front of them rather than having it told to them and having them past. So it's interesting that way, but also a great writing tool, because now we're spurred on to try to solve it another way. So now we're going here, and fortunately, they don't have to toss the I Ching wands and worry about turning into a skeleton to do it. But it's kind of that kind of thing where, let's take this risk and go up a stairway, or back down the stairway or whatnot. So,
however it operates.
That's right.
I don't really know.
Fully figure out how that works, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's just sort of part of the mystery PR package.
Is it me, or does James Storm and David Selby look so much alike, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of people say. I mean, I wonder if the casting was done with that in mind or despite that.
That's difficult. They are types. They are definitely types. They're both dark. They're both.
When Storm opens, when Storm opens his mouth, though, the difference ends, because he has this very polished. He grew up in England, and he has this very polished slick delivery, and Selby also has a polished delivery, but he's a guy from West Virginia.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he had
got the musicality of a West Virginian in it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's difference sets in when James Storm opens his mouth, because of all the associations we have with the English. He's immediately less trustworthy than when he started speaking.
And he has a lower register too. He has a slightly lower register, and that's a little bit more villainous in its way.
With Selby, it's all
yeah,
beautiful Beth, and it's just it's a friendly guy. It's a weatherman. He sounds like the weather guy in the best sense.
Well, the great thing about Selby's voice too, of course, him being a nice guy by nature, as a human being, and having that musicality in his voice, it sort of prompts that, and so then you've got this dichotomy of what his character was, especially earlier in 1897. He's a real rogue, but he's got that, he can put the charm on if he wants to, and all that wonderful stuff.
An interesting experiment. If you swapped the two actors in parts, you would not have the same show at all.
You would not have the same impressions of those characters and their journeys at all. And the writers probably would have gone different ways with those characters as well, because in the nature of the serial soap, or the continuing suspense drama, as it was preferred to be called.
Ooh, I love it. I never heard that.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, that was part of the PR package. They used to call it continuing suspense drama. Very early on.
CSD.
That whole thing allows for the writers to alter what they thought the direction of the character, or what will come out of the mouth of the character as they get to know the actor. And that's a sort of a cool bonus that you get with that half-hour format, that 22-minute format. As it serializes, the writers start going into, okay, this person is strong with this. What do we do? That's cool. We can do this with that, and so on. So,
well, it comes back to Dark Shadows format, which we were talking about on the cab ride over to the studio before the show.
Yes.
That maybe something intrinsic to Dark Shadows is keeping it to 20 minutes a day and being flexible within that.
Yeah. I like that idea. I think that Mark Perry might be onto something in streaming, because in streaming you can serialize, not quite to the 5 days a week thing, but at least you can kind of serialize a little bit, and you can take full advantage of things like cliffhangers too. So that might, if it's done, in a clever way, I think that might at least give a sense of that a little bit more. I want to see new stories, though. I definitely want to see new stories with references.
You'll get that.
Stuff.
You'll get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to add about 1995 before we go?
It begins with a fire and ends with a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are 80s movies that end the same way. So.
Yeah. Links to the Dark Shadows Daybook of Vows going to be in the description box. Link to Alan Gallant's Collins Part after, Dark. Links.
It's called Collins Port After Dark.
Collins Port After Dark. I am so sorry. Collins Port After Dark is going to be in the description box. Thank you guys so much for being patient with me. I am out of my mind.
It's okay, man. Thank you very much, Jules. Appreciate your indulgence of us as well. Had a good time tonight. Thank you, Patrick. It's great to meet you.
Absolutely. No. I'm back. It began with fire and ended with a 15-year-old girl. Paging Mr. Polanski.
Oh God.
What did I say? I didn't endorse anything.
No, if it began with a 15-year-old girl, ended with a fire, you got Roman Polanski, okay? or maybe it was begin with a 15-year-old girl, end by a pool. That was probably.
I think it ends with a lawyer, and a very bruised conscience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys have a great night. Bye.
Bye.
See you later.